reminder, I think it looks like we've got at least one visitor today. Others may show up. Just a reminder, visitors, if Dewey hasn't said this already, visitors, please stay on mute unless specifically asked for information from you. We got a lot to get through today.
Miklos, we do currently have a quorum.
And we have a quorum. Excellent. All right. Let me find which screen I'm sharing. There we go. And we're off. All right. So we're going to do a summary vote. So basically, these are all, we got a bunch of new CRs that came in. The CR, the CR, I guess, what am I looking for? The process is closed, so you can't submit any more CRs. Great for us, so we know exactly what we're looking at for the next few sessions. We're going through to see if there are some that can be voted on kind of in group. We'll also be sending CRs out to you as facilitators. Some of these might relate to each other, might have an impact on others, and so we're going to try to get those all together and give them to you in packages similar to if you're on the last go around, similar to how that went. So stay tuned. Sarah and I have been working through a lot of it, working through it. As you can imagine, there are a lot. We've got just over 200 CRs now in total. So got a lot to go through. This is a list of the ones that we're doing a summary vote on today. Again, most of them should be pretty easy to go through, but again, if any of them do warrant further conversation, we can pull those. First one is 1.0. So this adds a reference to ASCE, the American Society of Civil Engineers, to the reference section in section 1. I'm not sure why. Oh, I guess because we're adding a flood hazard areas to the glossary. And so by doing that, we're referencing this ASCE in section 1. Any issues, any comments on that? I'm going to go quick and then move on. 1, 2, 3, moving on. All right, number 2, this is 2.0-0006. This is updating the water agitation definition. So if you look in section 2, under theoretical, or I'm sorry, under agitated water, it's adding the sentence here. And let me see here. I don't want to annotate it, just want to highlight. I guess I can annotate the sentence here. So recirculation through either the floor or wall inlets shall not be considered agitated water. Under the theoretical peak occupancy, agitated water is really anywhere where water's being disturbed through some of their kind of like discharge. So a spray feature, where people are recreating, it's not necessarily just the like floor or wall and inlets. Any issues with that one? All right. There we go. 3.0-0002 is ASCE to the cited standards and laws. So again, this is part of section 3. This is submitted on behalf of the Harmonization Committee. And so this adds American Society of Civil Engineers and the Flood Resistant Design and Construction. This goes along with that first one that we talked about, to the cited laws and standards. If you go to section 3, section 3 is just a list of cited laws and standards that are part of the MAC. Yes, Sarah.
When we are referencing this, so ASCE, the reference, the parentheses behind that says ACME. Is that a different reference in the proposed change to text?
Good catch. It's ASCE here, so I want to say that that is probably just a typo.
Right there at the very, very top. Yeah,
Yep,
I'm guessing it should be ASCE instead of ACME.
Here. Yeah. Dewey, you did this. Is this just a typo?
Yeah, that would be.
Okay. That is a typo.
Cool.
Great
But
catch.
I think we should fix it.
Yes, that will need to be fixed.
The second line has a typo too. Same thing.
Yep.
Okay.
It should be ASCE. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, some operator errors there. Let me double check section 3.0 real quick. Section 2, which one is section 3? Let me pull that up real quick.
This is what happens when you drink and submit change requests.
Yeah.
I think it needs a semicolon.
Joe, no with the semicolons. So section 3, that would be correct because the cited standard is the ASCE SEI 24, whatever the standard is. So for section 3, we would need to include that.
Yeah, it's 14 in the body and 13 in the title. 24-13 or 24-14.
We will ensure that those get updated. Those are just typos.
Yeah.
Make a note real quick.
And Joe, where does that semicolon go?
All right. Next is a group of 3. So it's 410, 435, 412, 321, 412, 3221. Those are all the first CRs for these. So this first one is, they're all around using the same language. So using zero depth entry in lieu of beach entry. I did a little bit of research. It looks like it is very valid. Zero depth entry is the defined term in our definition area. There are a couple of sections that utilize beach entry because those terms end up being swapped out within our industry. So I think it just got overlooked. So we've got here in this section in 410, 435, we have it, the change in this section 412, 321, very quick change. This is part of the wave pool section. And then again, wave pool talks about where they can access the wave pool. They need to access from the shallow or zero depth entry area. Any issues with these? And I realize this needs to be capitalized. That's not a problem. Any comments, any issues with these?
I was just going to comment, like you said, Miklos, just make sure that they're capitalized correctly.
Yep. This one's 412.112.
Sorry, Miklos, I had one question, maybe for Dewey. Dewey, I don't remember what the language is in the surf venue CR, but do we need to address any of that here, or does the surf venue CR provide an exemption for some of this? I just want to make sure those languages match up if that's going to move forward.
The zero depth entry, that should be, in line with the surf venue. So
The
it should be
surf
okay on that.
venues may have beaches though.
Yeah, that's I guess that's I don't mind the zero depth entry part, but then some of the requirements that are part of that particular item.
Yeah. No, zero depth entry would still apply. And I believe that's what is in the surf venue CR as zero depth entry.
Okay.
Yeah. So we should be good there.
412.111.1. Sorry, I skipped over this one, so we'll go back. 412.111.0002 deals with spa alarms. This is a new CR, and so would add this section 412.111.2. Emergency shutoff or control switches shall be located within the site of the spa and not less than 5 feet or greater than 10 feet from the inside wall of the spa. Alarms, that they should have a rating of 80 decibels, have a flashing light, and operate until deactivated, and that they shall have signage that complies with these other two areas. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was already in the language in 412. But emergency shut off of what? Is it the recirculation, or is it the agitation in the jets?
Should be circulation.
Yeah,
Actually, should be all.
SPA's emergency shut off everything. And in the code, it should state that it shuts off everything. I think I had a conversation with somebody about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, if it's already in there, then I think we're good. But if it's not, we should indicate what we're shutting off.
So
now-
Joe, it reads, I have it pulled up. It says all spas shall have a clearly labeled emergency shutoff or control switch for the purpose of stopping the motor /S motor or motors that provide power to the recirculation system and hydrotherapy or hydrotherapy jet system.
Okay.
Yep.
I think we're good then.
So the crux of this is it's going to add where they need to be placed. So within 10 feet of the spa. And then the alarm should be audible, which these things are not in here currently. That there's an audible alarm, and that there is signage. Some jurisdictions, I believe, if anyone is in a jurisdiction that has this, I think some jurisdictions require this, but has not been included in the MAC thus far.
I have a quick question, and I don't know the answer, so industry folks will have to help with this, but it says an audible alarm and a light or a flashing alarm. Do most of them come with both of those? Or is it one or the other? Do they have to add them separately?
I'd assume that there's always both. That way a blind person and a deaf person would both be alerted.
Yeah. There are, I'm just doing a look. There are alarm systems, yes. Spa alarms with sound and LED lights.
Back in the day, because Utah's required this for a long time, but back in the day, there were some that just had one or the other. So I just wanted to verify that they're being manufactured now to include both.
Yes. Next is a clock, 412.112. So spas shall have a wall-mounted clock that's visible to bathers at all times, located no greater than 10 feet horizontal from the spa wall. Basically, you can put that right above the emergency shutoff. Any comments, issues here?
I had a couple comments or questions on this one.
Yes.
What type of clock? Do we care? Digital, analog, 24-hour? Does it matter what type of clock? Second clock? And then it doesn't say anything about it being functioning or at the correct time. So do we need to say something about a functioning clock set at the correct time?
That
Something
would
similar
close
to
down
that.
every hot tub in America.
I know, that's what I'm saying, because that's just one more thing for the operator to figure out.
Sure. I was looking to see if clock is anywhere else in the Mac. I don't think it is.
I think though, isn't this the design section? So it wouldn't really address functionality necessarily. It would just address that it needs to be required here. Functionality would probably have to go
That would come in
operation
another
somewhere
section.
else. And then I also had a concern with wall mounted. A number of most of the spas I deal with are commercial outdoor self-built clocks that don't have walls near them. Like they're in the middle of a water park or an aquatic facility. So I don't know if wall mounted is the correct term there, but a clock that is mounted in clear sight or something might be a better way to word that.
So because this is, I would agree with you. I think on that one, because I'm thinking back, I've been to some spas that the fencing isn't within 10 feet. And so
Right.
they have to have kind of a pole that sticks up with
Poster, yeah, something.
yeah. So I'm going to propose that we remove this one from vote and have some more conversation. Anyone disagree?
I don't disagree, but it's submitted by the harmonization committee. How is it listed in the ISPSC?
Oh, excellent point.
Yeah, that's the language submitted is as it is in the ISPSC. However, I do want to say this, just because the committee is harmonizing it doesn't mean that the language has to come over perfectly. So if there is more inclusionary language or more clarifying language the TRC wishes to see, that will be fine because it's still meeting the goals of the harmonization.
Yeah, I also had a thought about not greater than 10 feet away. Why not? What if it's a big old clock?
All good points. We're going to remove it. So we'll go over those points whenever we do discuss it. This is a bulkhead warning. So this is adding to 412.712. If a bulkhead is operated with an open area underneath, safety signage shall be provided on the bulkhead in letters at a size of 4 inches high, which states danger, no swimming under bulkhead. This is again part of the harmonization committee. Any issues with this one?
I think you need a space between size of.
I'm sorry?
I think you need to add
a space. Yeah. Okay. No other comments? 45126. General construction tolerances, again, part of the harmonization committee. Just taking this construction tolerance table and adding it into the aquatic venue section. The exceptions would be where the venue is intended for competition and the tolerances need to be within World Aquatic, NC2A, USA Swimming, and other standards for competition, which are generally less than this construction tolerance. Any issues?
Nicholas, let me add a clarifying to that one very quickly.
Yep.
The construction tolerances are a harmonization, but that second line about conforming to the sports authorities, that is not found in the ISPSC. However, that's important to add because some of the tolerance differences may be separate or may vary from what's listed in the table.
As a code enforcement person, are you okay with having that many options listed? I don't know if all those standards are the same, or is it something where you'll have to look through each one to find out if it meets any of those, right? Because this says it could be in accordance with any of those. I don't know if they're all the same or not.
Well, the last part says for the intended competition.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to pick out one that's
Yeah.
for your specific.
And it's really not something the health department's going to care about. It's more of getting it certified for that competition. It's going to be well within the tolerances for the health department.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next is 471.10.1. This has been requested to be pulled by James. We're going to go ahead and just pull this, so we're going to skip over it. But this is updating the language for the minimum flow rates, taking out the 25% lower than design requirements and adding some minimum flow rate language. James indicated that this warrants some more discussion, and so we're going to pull that one. 471.734 is a piping inspection, part of the harmonization process prior to backfilling. So this is part of the construction process. Piping, including process piping that's installed in trenches, shall be inspected prior to backfilling. Hopefully everybody's doing that, because if you don't, that's that costs a lot of money to go back and redo it, but that needed to be called out, I guess. So
I had a quick question on that.
Yep.
Just with help with language, inspected by who and for what?
well,
I agree that it needs to be inspected, but I think we need to be a little bit more by who and for what.
What's in that section 471.73?
That's the inlet section, 4.7.1.3.
It's the drainage and installation. Drainage. So it's talking about the piping and the, let's see.
It's talking about installation of the pipes.
Yeah.
The 717 is piping.
Let's, if no one, if no one thinks otherwise, it might be worth taking this out, because I think it might be better to put this in a different section.
It looks like it's just saying before you backfill it, you got to test it. And there's a testing section that follows this for static water pressure test. And that's probably what it's referring to, that you need to do that test before you backfill, but it's not at all clear, and the language isn't aligned either. Because this says inspection and the other part says testing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is going to warrant some further conversation, so let's go ahead and remove this one.
Just as a process note on all the harmonization ones where we opt for different language or improved language, I'll take that back to the harmonization committee for discussion for the 27 ISPSC.
This one's been requested to be pulled as well. We're going to skip over that. 58535A, requirement to have the word lifeguard displayed on lifeguard uniform. So this adds into section 5 and adds the phrase here underlined, the word lifeguard or guard shall be prominently displayed on the outermost layer of the lifeguard's uniform. Any comments, issues there? One.
I do have a comment. Man, I talk too much, I feel like, in this committee. I'm sorry.
That's what you're here for.
What about the cost? Are they gonna complain about the cost of putting that on there? I don't care either way if it's on there or not. But what about the cost for the lifeguard?
Personally, they can complain all they want, but you can go to Michael's and get iron-on stuff and have it done really cheap, or you can have it
really
screened
can.
on. Yeah, so I don't think the cost is
Something we need to be concerned about.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm good with that.
I
And
don't know
facilities
how
are
necessary this is.
Yeah, I don't see why it's necessary when it says the uniform is going to clearly identify them as a member of the lifeguard staff.
Right. It already says that.
I'll speak for myself, and I'm sure that others will have seen, I'm sure Joe has probably seen the same, that it is absolutely necessary.
Can a uniform be identified without letters and words?
So what
Or
ends up
simple, a
happening
big
is
white cross
sometimes
on it?
they can, however, there's other clothing items that have crosses. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen staff walking around with a tube and a whistle and then somebody comes up to them and says, "Are you a lifeguard?" That might just be a way of introducing themselves, but having guard on the shirt and on the clothing and requiring it, I think would be a big help. Joe, do you have any comments? And then Terry, you'll be next.
Yeah, no, first,
Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry, from the cost perspective, they're already buying a uniform, so there's not much additional cost in just adding the language to it. Most folks will do that, although to Miklos's point, there are a number of folks that can be positioned throughout that facility. So you may have attendants that look very similar to lifeguards, especially at splash pads and things like that. I think it's important that the patrons can recognize who is a guard so they know exactly to go to for what help. I don't see it as a negative. There probably are other ways to identify them, but I think this is pretty standard, I would think, to have it labeled this way. So I would be in favor of this change.
Yeah, and I don't oppose this either. I'm pretty good at playing devil's advocate. And I see those quotations around those two specific words, and it really limits them to what the language they could use. What if someone wants to call it a safety staff or something else, supervisory staff or something?
Yeah.
they can't do anything except use one of these two choices.
That's
And
Yeah, that's a great
And I
comment.
think the problem with that is though, is that, I'm sorry, the problem with that though is that there are a lot of safety staff and a lot of supervisory staff. Even the MAC itself says the safety plan, you have to identify who's a member of the safety team, but that may not include everybody may not be a lifeguard. So you may have a safety staff, or you may have a public safety officer, or just public safety or something along those lines. I think it's important to identify who is actually a lifeguard, who is trained and capable of that, for a couple of different reasons.
is this type of requirement found anywhere else, in any other existing, state codes or local codes?
I do not know the answer to that. It
I
is
can't
part of
say
the
off the
guidance
top of
we
my head.
provide.
I haven't
Say that-
seen it in any local any health codes, but it is referenced with similar language in the aquatic safety guidelines for the law.
Terry, you've been very patient. What was your comment?
I was just going to say, from looking at it from the perspective, I worked for a municipality, and I could get pushback from other departments that, our uniform needed to be more like other departments. And I would insist we needed to have lifeguard on it, or guard. And so this would help. So I'm very much for this.
Keep in mind also is that it has also been submitted on behalf of the Bather Supervision Committee. So unless there's some significant cost issues or operational issues, I would tend to side with that committee, since it's made up of operators and lifeguard professionals. But always welcome for the devil's advocate conversations. Those are good. Next is also from the Bather Supervision Committee, 58537, sun blocking methods. So if you look at the description, I don't think it accurately describes what the proposed text change is. So it's actually not removing the reference to SPF level 15. It's adding the underlined and bold language that says including the associated risks of using and not using protective measures. So this is so the whole language is saying that facilities that have lifeguards shall train their lifeguards about the use of protective clothing, as well as utilizing sunscreens. And then adding, let me see, that doesn't add anything. Yep, that's it. Any issues here? Alrighty. Last one is adding a discussion of emergency O2, admin to lifeguard training courses. So this is in 6211. So this is the lifeguard training course content shall include, and then adds benefit of emergency oxygen administration for drowning emergencies. Again, this is from the Bather, Lifeguarding Bather Ad Hoc Committee. Every lifeguard training course that I think at this point has information on emergency oxygen. So it doesn't change anything that the industry is already doing. It just more accurately lists the course content in the MAC. All right. So aside from 573132, 471734, and 471111, and 412112. So those four, like to hold a vote on the rest of these. We'll hear any nays. All right, no nays. So those 4 that were asked to be removed will be removed. We'll add those into the cadence for our general meetings, and then the rest of these will be approved. All right, I don't know if that saved any time, but that was the intention there. Let's see here. Hey, it saved time. We got through 12 just in there. So next we are going to back up, review some ones that review one that we've already looked at. So this is the pre-coding requirements. We talked about on 9/27, but we're not able to hold a vote. James, you're gonna have to stay silent on this one. So this is the inconsistency in pre-coding process requirements. It's updating the text for pre-coat media introduction system process. Pipe systems shall be capable of a closed loop pre-coating, recirculation of the water with suspended media through the filter without returning it to the pool during the pre-coat process to minimize the potential of filter media or debris being returned to the pool. It is not consistent. So the current section is not consistent with the language in section 5. So it's just updating the current section to comply with that. Any comments or issues? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Do we still, let's see. Do we still have a quorum if James has to recuse himself?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yep.
Any nays? No nays. This is supported. All right. Did we already vote on that? Oh, we may have already voted on that. Sorry, guys. Good. Let's go to those that we haven't. So guys, we got a lot of CRs in, so I want to make sure that we're this wasn't the same. This wasn't the same one, was it? No, this is same issue, different part of the section. So adding a new section. So adding uninterrupted flow to 47233, valves and piping shall be configured so that the flow through the pre-coat filter shall not be interrupted when switching from pre-coat mode to filtration mode. And again, that make sure that it's consistent with 5723331. Any comments? All right, ready to vote? Any nays? All right. Great. Sorry, Corey, I know I stole your thunder there on that one. I'll give you more opportunities, I promise.
Oh, you're fine. Thank you.
I figured you wouldn't mind. Sarah, this one's yours. This is secondary treatment update.
Do you want to, I don't have it pulled up. Do you want to go ahead and read it? And you can steal my thunder, Miklos. I don't need to talk as much.
Are y'all seeing this? Am I, because I have the CR pulled up, but.
Yeah, it is on the
Okay.
screen.
Okay, great. So that's taking 4733111, secondary treatment equipment using UV light. So it's adding the specific language for using UV light shall be marked with an EPA establishment number. Was fine when UV was the only option. Filters cannot get an EPA establishment number. MAC 4th edition changes section to include filters by changing the word secondary disinfection to secondary treatment. I think my only question here, well, first, Sarah, have there been any reports back from the TSCs on this?
There has not. I have not heard back from the TSCs on this one.
Okay. Does anybody have any initial comments here?
This EPA establishment number is only required for secondary treatment, right?
That is correct.
Filters aren't considered a secondary treatment, is it?
That is correct. That's why, no, they can be. So filters that would meet that 3-log requirement would comply, I believe.
Yeah. I
Somebody
believe-
tell me if that's incorrect. Okay.
I think that is correct because I think last time we changed it, according to this, I think from secondary disinfection to secondary treatment for that very reason.
Correct.
So if we don't make this change, we're essentially saying that a filter that qualifies for secondary treatment has to display an EPA registration number, or excuse me, establishment number, which it can't get.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, this makes sense then.
Yep. Any other comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and vote. Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. James, is a good way of making sure that you don't have to do a whole lot on these calls is that you've got a bunch of CRs.
Yeah, I'm taking the rest of the call off.
It's going to come back around to haunt you. I'm going to give you exactly what you've dished out. Is ensuring
Next
UV.
call, I'm going to do everybody's CRs for them.
Ensuring UV systems do not operate outside of validated ranges. So in section 47333 and 2 has this one. So don't, Sarah, are you ready to discuss this, or do you want to go through it together?
Let's go through it together. I think that would be good.
Okay.
So I can read it. The proposed change to the text.
Yep.
Okay, so it says the equipment shall be electrically interlocked with feature pumps or automated feature supply valves, such as when the UV equipment fails to produce required dosage as measured by automatic sensor, the water features do not operate. Here's the additional part, or the new language. It says, additionally, interactive water play aquatic venues shall use UV disinfection equipment that continuously measures and displays the UV transmissivity of the water by internal or external sensors that are linked to the electrical interlocks to stop feature flow if the UV transmissivity drops below the minimum value on the equipment's label. Making sure that it's interlocked. If the UV light, if the transmissivity, that is a hard word for me, sorry. The transmissivity level drops below the minimum value, that it's interlocked, and it will not show up. Right?
Yeah. So I think my first question is, I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, so it's in here in the supporting documentation. Some measure UVT with internal sensors while others do not, but should be required. If this passes, then would be required or should be required to measure UVT. There is, it looks like already in 473331 in the labeled section, UV equipment shall be labeled with the following design specifications: maximum flow rate, minimum transmissivity, minimum intensity, and minimum dosage. If it doesn't mean that it needs to be able to sort of measure and display it, but just needs to be labeled with it. Any comments on this?
The TSC did respond to this one, and their technical assessment says it's not technically defensible.
Okay, any reasons why?
It says, we understand that it is a high dose, not a high UV transmissivity, transmissivity, I can't say that word, UVT, that's what we're going to call it, that kills cryptosporidium. We understand that the dose is roughly proportional to the product of the lamp intensity and the UVT. We understand that sensors are already required to be present to measure the dose, and the feature pump is already required to shut down when the dose gets below the minimum value. And then their pros and cons: it is best practice to maintain a high UVT value and potentially dump and replace water if the UVT value approaches the low limit. This theoretically would allow the lamp to operate at low power. If it is not done, the lamp may ramp up to make for the lower UVT. However, as long as the dose is maintained, there is no health impact.
I have a couple questions. Is there a device that is already, or a sensor that is already standardized amongst this type of equipment for measuring the UVT that is maybe called out in the NSF standard or some other standard, so that it's the same across devices? And am I understanding this correctly, that this is basically measuring whether the UV light is able to transmit into the water? So it's basically checking for cloudiness in the water, or calcification or clouding on the tube that would prevent the light from transmitting into the water, and we're shutting it down based on there not being enough light getting in contact due to blockage.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea behind this one, but what I'm getting caught up on is the part that says continuously measures and displays. Are there pieces of equipment out there that could easily be obtained that meet NSF standards that can do this? What does that mean, displays? Where is it displayed?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. Is there a standard sensor that's already called out?
Do these things even
Someone-
exist? I just want to make sure before we would agree to put something in here that there's a device out there that could be purchased and installed that could do this.
James, I think if you have any information on that,
Yeah,
I think you can speak up.
sensors exist. There's UVT analyzers that can do this task, but the technology is already built into some controllers. So the problem is that even though it measures the UVT, it may not be displayed such that the operator could see it. And the concern here is that when the UVT goes below the validated range of the UV instrument, is the validation valid? And if you never know what the UVT is, which is the current status, you know, because all these drinking water units are validated to like 93% UVT, but some of these spray pads are running at 50% UVT. And, you know, you can create a situation where you're running below the validated range and it's all hidden. So the display is just to put it out there. You know, if your UVT is within the range, you know, put it on the screen. And if you don't have the sensor, you can buy one externally.
Gonna be
Is the sensor standardized?
having it displayed?
Sorry, can you say that again, Kevin?
Is the sensor standardized?
Yeah, the sensors, I mean, this is a very tried and true old method of, you know, measuring a property of water. You know, it's just UV 254 transmissivity. And there are plenty of instruments and things out there that can do this. So, I mean, it's not anything new.
Is there a way we can more simply word this that links the proper function of the UV working the way it's supposed to through the water, that it's interlocked? And if it doesn't meet what it's supposed to per the equipment's label, everything shuts down. That's really what this is about, right? Not necessarily the continuity of measurements and displays.
Correct. It's about ensuring that UV systems are actually doing what they're designed to do.
And and if it can't perform and meet the expectation, then
Then it
it's
shuts
interlocked.
down. Yeah.
So I have another question for you. So the objective, I think originally was, as Miklos said, if it doesn't meet the required dosage, the interlocks kick in and shut down the feature pumps. If we add this additional language and you have an oversized unit, right, which a lot of the bigger water parks will do, if you have an oversized unit, even if it dips below the minimum value on the equipment's label, it still may be able to meet the objective of the dosing requirement. So are we creating another reason for interlocking that is in addition to or in excess of the original dosage intention?
Yeah, this would be in addition to the original dosage.
Right. So we're not, if we add this where it's a second limiting factor. So even if the equipment meets the dosage, now we're saying we have to shut it down if it doesn't meet what's on the label. And if that's an oversized piece of equipment, I don't know. I'm not sure that would be a reason that we would have to shut it down if it's still, even though it dipped below what's on the equipment's label. Do we need to have it interlock and shut everything down if it's meeting the dosage requirement?
Well, so the dosage requirement is, from what I understand, it's the dosage is based off of meeting that 3 log reduction in a certain UVT model. So it might be 98% UVT. So 98% of the water is, I guess, the water is 98% transmittance or transmissive. I don't know how to say it. I think, and then, so what the minimum is it's saying UV equipment shall list the minimum transmissivity. You're not the only one, Sarah. And so, I mean, that's a key feature that I don't think anyone's really looking at right now. It might be in some facilities, but I can say from a operator, not really any operators are looking at that.
I can say from a health inspector, we're not looking at this either. This is a secondary treatment, correct? And yes, it's required to be on our splash pads, our interactive water play aquatic venues. But really what we're looking at is the disinfectant, the primary treatment, the disinfection. This is kind of a secondary, it is a secondary, like it's a stopgap. So if our disinfectant's not working, we want to make sure that we have these other things working. Does that play into this conversation at all?
Somebody tell me if I'm incorrect here, but I think the reason for having UV on spray grounds is the ability for the spray systems to transmit viruses and stuff like crypto. And so even if you did have adequate disinfection, we know that crypto can stay in the water for, weeks. And so this UV, the reason to put UV on these spray features is so that it is less likely to spread as it does with these. Am I incorrect in saying that?
No.
So I think to answer your question, Sarah, is that I think it's the UV, it's secondary it's secondary, not supplemental, which means it is imperative to the design.
I keep looking at what's already there in the electrically interlocked language. And it already says they need to be interlocked. It already says they need to produce the required dosage.
Yeah, it needs
Can
to
we
be.
can we just simply say when the UV equipment fails to produce the required dosage and UVT as measured by an automatic sensor?
I mean, that's essentially the same thing as what they're saying. I think the issue is UVT. How easy is it for facilities to comply with this UVT requirement? I think that's
that's what I mean. We could
Yeah.
require both the dosage, which is already required, as
right.
listed above, and then just simply and UVT. And it won't
Right,
be as
but
complicated below.
Yeah,
The question,
I mean-
I think, though, is, go ahead, Miklos.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
The question is whether the sensor, at least I think the question is whether the sensor, I understand that there are plenty of sensors out there, but are there standardized sensors that are called out as part of an equipment standard that are easy to add to any system, or are they already defined, in an NSF standard or as part of these UV systems? In other words, how common are they? Are the UVT sensors? How common? How standardized? How easy are they to add to the pool UV systems for your typical operator?
I think this is a great question. I don't know that we've got enough information at this point to really say one way or another. I think we can, I don't want to belabor this too much, but I think I can commit to, I won't hold you to this, Sarah. I can commit to trying to gather some more information on this UVT, and James, if you can as well, that'd be awesome. And especially on the sensor availability. And
we've required a sensor at least since the 3rd edition of the MAC. That was in 2018. So it's been in there a while. This 47334.
Well,
the top part, not the bottom part.
So there's already a standardized sensor that's called out for this equipment. And all this is doing is saying tying the existing sensor that's already there into the interlock. Not adding an additional sensor, only tying in the existing sensor.
No, well, so what this is saying is that it receives the inactivation credit as long as UV transmissivity remains within the validated range, but it does not say that you have to have a sensor. Neither does this section. It potentially does in this section, if that is what it currently states.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It's in the 2nd edition MAC as well from 2016. So it's been in there a long time that we require an automated sensor that's interlocked to the UV.
Okay, so if it's already in this, then is this moot? Do we need to add this? If it's already stating that it's part of this alarm and interlock set point, do we need to have this?
I'm not sure if we need it or not, but there's 2 different types of sensors, and that's really what this is boiling down to. There's a sensor that tells you how much power the lamp is putting out, and there's a sensor that tells you at a distance how much light it's getting through the water, and that's the UV transmittance. And the problem is I've heard from UV manufacturers that their equipment will not shut down, that interlock just simply will not happen because they're always going to be, they've designed these things with factors in the models so that it doesn't shut these things down, because people complain when that happens. And so I think there's kind of industry workarounds here, and that's what this was addressed towards. And it's simply saying that if you're outside of the validated range of the instrument, you can't trust the validation. So you have to have a sensor telling you if you're within the validated range. I'm not saying we have to have it. I'm just saying that that's kind of what's missing here. And, that's all I can say.
Yeah, I agree with what James just said, but can we say it more simply, more clearly? By just adding 2 or 3 words to what we already have?
I like your suggestion, Joe. I mean, I think if you put "and UVT" in there, then it may work. So if you want to propose some
required
language,
dosage and UV transmissivity as measured by automated sensors, plural, or as measured by separate automated sensors.
James, do you have 2 sensors? So you have the dose that's coming out of the lamp, and then you have the transmissivity that's coming, that's measured in the water, correct? That's, or measured at a different spot. So there's 2 different sensors?
Yeah. All these instruments have to have some kind of sensor, but typically it's a sensor near the lamp surface that tells you how much power it's putting out.
Mm-hmm.
And the UVT sensor would would be a separate measurement that would apply to whether or not it's in its validated range, because the manufacturers will say, oh, we'll just increase the lamp power until it works. But once you get out of the validated range, then the validation is no longer valid. That's why they have a validated range. And, I think that, as complicated as this sounds, that, this has been tried to be regulated in theory, but I think the manufacturers have just found a workaround by ignoring this range and not measuring it and not displaying it. And maybe Miklos can find some information, talk to some manufacturers, and kind of verify some of this. I'm not a UV manufacturer or anything. I don't have a dog in the fight here. I'm just saying that this is kind of one of those loopholes that people have been skirting around for a while.
Yeah, let's do some more. Let me do some research on it and see what we can come up with, because we're already over time and want to be respectful for everyone's time here. And we'll readdress this and just give a couple of minutes to see if we can come to a consensus here at the next meeting. So we'll pick this up next time. We'll also have a list of CRs that we'll attempt to get through for the next meeting as well. So be on the lookout for that, and be on the lookout for more CR assignments. Those will be coming very shortly. We have a lot to get through.
Be prepared. I will be sending them.
Yeah, Sarah and Miklos, how are we doing on the schedule? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we have 6 weeks left.
I'm analyzing that.
We don't meet next week.
Right, we don't meet next week. So yeah, I'm analyzing that, and we'll have to. I'll try to I need to have that done by this week so that we can get a schedule for the rest of the time that we have, and so we can make sure we can get through everything. So I will have that to everybody by Friday. And that'll include everyone's CR assignments. So, yep, we'll get it done. It'll happen. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the week, and we will talk next time. Also, please make sure you are completing any CRs that have been closed out. Make sure you're completing the report on those. We only have a handful that have been completed, so we need to make sure that everything that we've done is going to get uploaded on there. So please make sure you're doing those. All right. Thank you all.
Nicholas and Sarah, thank you for wrangling all this.
No problem.
I feel like sometimes we're hurting cats, but we will get them in there somehow. So
Thank you all very much. We know it's a daunting task.
We'll get there.
Not 600, so we're good. See ya.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.